Hello, friends, and welcome to Adventures in Pixieland. My name's Amy, and I'm an ordained minister, and we are in Bible study. We are in the book of 2 Chronicles, and we are in chapter 1. So this is our very first video for this brand new book of the Bible, and for me, that's always a reason to get all excited about what we're going to read next. Now, this is a continuation of 1 Chronicles. This is written during the time that they're in diaspora. I don't know if I always say that the right way, because I've heard it a bunch of different ways. So they're in exile. Nobody's in Jerusalem. Nobody's in the promised land. All the people have been picked up and moved. Some first with the Assyrians, then they put strangers in their place. So when we're in the time of Jesus, it's not necessarily the descendants of Israel that are in those surrounding locations like they used to be. They're in those places where the 10 tribes used to live. They were removed during the exile. The biblical scholars believe this is written by Ezra. It's a prophet that we haven't gotten to yet. Not sure, though. It's that time frame it's written in is contemporary with Ezra. So is 1 Chronicles. And it is really the view of the kingdom through the eyes of the priests. Instead of, because the priests would have to keep track of all the genealogy. Instead of it being, the court historians or something of that nature. Okay, so same time period, different perspective. 2 Chronicles, book 1. Solomon, well, I should say chapter 1. Solomon asks for wisdom. Solomon, son of David, established himself firmly over his kingdom. For the Lord his God was with him and made him exceedingly great. Then Solomon spoke to all Israel, to the commanders of thousands and the commanders of hundreds, to the judges and all the leaders in Israel, the heads of family. And Solomon and the whole assembly went to the high place at Gibeon. So now you should remember the high place at Gibeon eventually ends up with golden calves and stuff. And the high places not supposed to be, most frequently the high places were dedicated to some other deity, and God did not like that. He went to the high place at Gibeon, for God's tent of meeting was there. And that's why. Remember, it was a tent. So it roamed around. It didn't necessarily stay in any one location. Which Moses, the Lord's servant, had made in the desert. Now David had brought up the ark from Kiriath-Jearim to the place he had prepared for it, because he had pitched a tent for it in Jerusalem. But the bronze altar that Bezalel, it's not really Bezalel, B-E-Z-A-L-E-L, Bezalel, son of Uri, or Uri, U-R-I, the son of Hur, had made, was in Gibeon, in front of the tabernacle of the Lord. So Solomon and the assembly inquired of him there. Okay, that's where the altar is. That's where they went. Solomon went up to the bronze altar before the Lord in the tent of meeting and offered 1,000 burnt offerings on it, which I find very interesting. Was he just giving the animals and the priests were burning and he was just sitting there with it? Or was he the one doing the burning? Because according to the book of the law, he shouldn't be the one doing the burning. Only a son of Aaron should be even in front of the altar. So why is he there? Like, how is he, because they're not supposed to even be able to look at the altar unless they're a Levite. That night, God appeared to Solomon and said to him, "Ask for whatever you want from me to give you." And let me say that all in one sentence. Ask for whatever you want me to give you. So Solomon answered God, "You have shown great kindness to David my father, and have made me a king in his place. Now, Lord, let your promise to my father David be confirmed. For you have made me king over the people who are numerous as the dust of the earth. Give me wisdom and knowledge that I may lead this people. For who is better who is able to govern these great people of yours? God said to Solomon, since this is your heart's desire, and you have not asked for wealth, riches, or honor, nor for the death of your enemies, and since you have not asked for a long life, but for wisdom and knowledge to govern my people over whom I have made you king, therefore wisdom and knowledge will be given to you. And also I will give you wealth, riches, and honor, such as no king who was before you ever had, and none after you will have. And that's true. Remember, this is Israel's heyday under the time of Solomon. From here, it's all downhill. Then Solomon went to Jerusalem from the high place at Gibeon, from before the tent of meeting, and he reigned over Israel. Solomon accumulated chariots and horses. He formulated 1,400 chariots and 12,000 horses. It's or charioteers, which he kept in the chariot cities and also with him in Jerusalem. Now, I know that can be a little confusing. It's almost twice the amount of people to chariot. Because you should remember, there's 2 people in a chariot. You can't be shooting an arrow or swinging a sword and steering the horses at the same time. The king made silver and gold as common in Jerusalem as stones and cedar, as plentiful as sycamore trees in the foothills. So choice, heyday stuff. Everybody was wealthy. They could afford the good stuff. Solomon's horses were imported from Egypt. So they're making them Arabian horses. I do believe this is the term there. Or possibly Muzar, M-U-Z-U-R, a region in Sicily, or Cilicia, C-I-L-I-C-I-A, Cilicia. And from Ku, K-U-E, which just got a footnote of C. Oh, no, that's probably also Cilicia, so okay. I guess it's 2 different names for the same region. They imported a chariot from Egypt for 600 shekels, footnote D, that is about 15 pounds or 7 kilograms of silver, and a horse for 150, that is 3 3/4 pounds or 1.7 kilograms. So much more expensive for the chariot than the horse. They also exported them to all the kings of the Hittites and the Arameans. So then they became the dealers. Solomon became a car dealer because chariots were cars. Or maybe, because they're not really tanks. They're really cars. They're your mobile unit that's, in my opinion, not as good as having a cavalry. You would think it would be better, but no, the horse is slowed down by what they're pulling, as opposed to you being on the back of them, which is like nothing to them. Much more mobile to just be on a horse than to have to steer a chariot, in my opinion. But it's what allowed them, in their time frame, to very much so be a threat. This was the primary means of mobile warfare. Chariots at that time. So if you want to find out about the preparations for building the temple, you're going to need to come back for the next video, friends. Hello, friends, and welcome to Adventures in Pixieland. My name's Amy. I'm an ordained minister, and we are in Bible study. We are in the Niv. We are in the book of 2 Chronicles, and we are in chapter 2. Preparations for building the temple. Solomon gave orders to build the temple for the name of the Lord and a royal palace for himself. He conscripted 70,000 men as carriers and 80,000 men as stonecutters. Conscripted, not giving them a choice. It's like the draft. Conscripted. In the hills, and 3,600 as foremen over them. Solomon sent this message to Hiram, king of Tyre. Hiram's got a footnote of F. That is... It is some sort of variant of Hiram. whatever the actual word they put there is, because it's spelled exactly the same way in the footnote. Send me cedar logs, as you did for my father David, when you sent him cedar to build a palace to live in. Now I am about to build a temple for the name of the Lord my God, and to dedicate it to him for burnt fragrant incense before him, for setting out the consecrated bread regularly, and for making burnt offerings every morning and evening, and on the Sabbaths and new moons, at the appointed feasts of our Lord our God. This is a lasting ordinance for Israel. So basically that altar is supposed to be burning all the time. The temple I am going to build will be great, because our God is greater than other gods. But who is able to build a temple for him, since the heavens, even the highest heavens, cannot contain him? Who am I to build a temple for him except as a palace, or as a place to burn sacrifices before him? Send me, therefore, a skilled man to work in gold and silver, bronze and iron, and in purple, crimson, and blue yarn, and experience in the art of engraving, to work in Judah and Jerusalem with my skilled craftsmen, whom my father David provided. Send me also cedar and pine and algum, A-L-G-U-M. It's got a footnote. That is, it's possibly juniper. Almug, A-L-M-U-G, so possibly juniper. Logs from Lebanon, for I know your men are skilled at cutting timber there. My men will work with yours to provide me with plenty of lumber, because the temple I build will be large and magnificent. I will give your servants, the woodsmen who cut the timber, 20,000 cores. That is probably 125,000 bushels, or 4,400 kilograms of ground wheat, 20,000 cores of barley, 20,000 baths. I'm going to footnote a B. That is probably about 115,000 gallons, or about 440 kiloliters of wine, and 20,000 baths of olive oil. Wow. Hiram, king of Tyre, replied by letter to Solomon, because the Lord loves his people, he has made you their king. And Hiram added, praise be to the Lord, the God of Israel, who made the heaven and earth. He has given King David a wise son, endowed him with intelligence and discernment, who will build a temple for the Lord and a palace for himself. I am sending you Huram Abi, Huram -Abi, a man of great skill, whose mother was from Dan, and whose father was from Tyre. So a Jew. He is trained to work in gold and silver, or I should say, an Israelite, bronze and iron, stone and wood, and with purple and blue and crimson yarn and fine linen. He is experienced in all kinds of engraving and can execute any design you give to him. He will work with your craftsmen and with those of my lord David your father. Now let my lord send his servants the wheat and barley and the olive oil and wine he promised, and we will cut all the logs from Lebanon that you need. We'll float them by rafts down the sea to Joppa. You can take them up to Jerusalem. Solomon took a census of all the aliens who were in Israel. After the census his father David had taken, they were found to be 153,600 people. He assigned 70,000 of them to be carriers, 80,000 to be stone cutters in the hills, and 36,000 foremen over them to keep the people working. So he found a purpose for the populace, and as long as he was paying them, feeding them, and all that stuff, then it's not really much different than what FDR did in, the New Deal. And if that is like, what are you talking about? Then you should Google that, FDR and the New Deal. And then you'll have some context. If you want to find out about Solomon building the temple, you're going to need to come back for the next video, friends. Hello, friends! friends, and welcome to Adventures in Pixieland. My name's Amy, and I'm an ordained minister, and we are in Bible study. We are in 2 Chronicles, and remember, written during the time of the Babylonian diaspora, and we are in chapter 3. So this is written from the view of the priests. Biblical scholars think it's Ezra, but we're not really sure. I don't argue with the biblical scholars. I don't have time to study the way they do to be able to argue with them. I can only make my own discernment based upon what they say. Chapter 3. Solomon builds the temple. Then Solomon began to build the temple of the Lord in Jerusalem, Mount Moriah, Moriah, where the Lord had appeared to his father David. It was on the threshing floor of Araunah, A-R-A-U-N-A-H, which got a footnote of C. Hebrew, Ornan, O-R-N-A-N, a variant of the exact same thing. Okay. Multiple ways to spell the same thing. The name, it's just a name, the Jebusite. Okay. The place provided by David. He began building on the 2nd day of the 2nd month in the 4th year of his reign. Oh, when David bought that field to make an offering to the Lord, because he was told to, right, to make up for, what he had done. That's where Solomon built the temple. That's interesting. The foundation Solomon laid for building the temple of God was 60 cubits long and 20 cubits wide. It's got a footnote of D. Here. That is about 90 feet, or about 27 meters long, about 50 feet, or 9 meters wide. Using the cubit of the old standard. That means eventually the cubit changed. I wonder if this is the same cubit that Noah was using. The portico at the front of the temple was 20 cubits. It's got a footnote of E there. That is about 30 feet, or about 9 meters long, across the width of the building, and 20 cubits high, which has got another footnote with F. Some the Septuagint, so that's Greek, or the Syriac, the Syrian language, manuscripts, and some Hebrew have 120, as opposed to 20 cubits high. And we're talking about a building. So, let's see. 60 cubits was 30 feet. Right? Is that right? Let me make sure. Hold on. 20 cubits. Let's go back to 20 cubits because I can find that one more easily here. That's about 90 feet. 20 cubits. So that's very tall. It's a very tall building. Very, very tall building. He overlaid the inside with pure gold. He paneled the main hall with pine covered it with fine gold, and decorated it with palm trees and chains to the line. So, like gold plated, or plated is, it's very much a term for jewelry. So they, where they apply it, they're applying like gold leaf. That's where my brain was going, like gold leaf. He adorned the temple with precious stones, and the gold he used was the gold of Parvaim, P-A-R-V-A-I-M. So it's going to be a location, I guess. He overlaid the ceiling beams, door frames, walls, and doors of the temple with gold. And he carved cherubim on all the walls. So it's a particular type of angel carved on all the walls. He built the most holy place, its length corresponding with the width of the temple, 20 cubits long and 20 cubits wide, so it's square. He overlaid the inside with 600 talents Footnote is G. Wait a minute. It's the light. I've got to get more light in here. 23 tons, or about 21 meters. So that's a lot of gold. The gold nails weighed 50 shekels. That is about 1¼ pounds, or 6.6 kilograms. That's a heavy nail of gold. Like my brain is just like, gold is a soft metal. How does it work as a nail? He overlaid the upper parts with gold. Okay, that makes more sense. Like the rest of it is iron, and then they put gold on it. In the most holy place, he made a pair of sculptured cherubim and overlaid them with gold. The total wingspan of the cherubim was 20 cubits. One wing of the first cherub was 5 cubits long, which has got a footnote. That is about 7.5 feet, or 2.3 meters. And it was 5 cubits long and touched the temple wall, while its other wing, also 5 cubits long, touched the wings of the other cherubim. Similarly, one wing of the second cherubim was 5 cubits long and touched the other temple wall and its other wing. Also 5 cubits long, touched the wing of the first cherubim. So both their wings were touching each other. The wings of the cherubim extended 20 cubits. They stood on their feet, facing the main hall. Interesting. I've got a footnote of J on that. And the I, J, or facing inward. Well, those were two different things. Like I always thought they were facing each other and over the sanctuary, and now they're saying like they're on their feet. Like they're not bowed down in supplication with the wings facing each other like they are on the ark. The angels are standing upright, and they're facing the main hall. So they're facing outward to the main hall. That's not the same thing. And it's just they're standing next to each other, and their wingspan is expanding this way. He made the curtain of blue, purple, and crimson yarn and fine linen, with cherubim worked into it. In front of the temple, he made 2 pillars, which together were 35 cubits, which has got a footnote of K. That is about 52 feet, or 16 meters. Long, that's their length with each of them, each with a capital on top measuring 5 cubits. He made interwoven chains, which has a footnote on it. Right here, or possibly made chains in the inner sanctuary, because the meaning for this term in Hebrew is uncertain. And put them on top of the pillars. He also put them on top of the pillars. He also made 100 pomegranates, and he attached them to the chains. He erected the pillars in front of the temple, one to the south and one to the north. The one to the south he named Jachin. It's got a footnote of M. Jachin probably means he established. And he named the other one Boaz. So also got a footnote. Boaz means in him is strength. Now that's also one of his ancestors. So Boaz makes sense. Which would say to me that Jachin means something important to him. So the next video is about temple furnishings. And if you would like to know what the priests have to say about that, you're going to need to come back for the next video, friends. Hello, friends. So, Bible study. late in the day. I know, like it's the weekend or something, because I took the day off. That's why. We are doing, it's the Niv, Acts, chapter 23, verses 11 through 35, which just closes out the rest of chapter 23. So, Paul is been speaking to the Sanhedrin, putting things in uproar. They're trying to punish him, but under Roman law, he's not on trial. He has not been accused of anything. They haven't followed the proper procedures. So the Romans are now involved because they're not supposed to be doing any, like on the temple grounds in the courtyard, they're allowed to stone people if there is a trial, because it has to be consistent with Roman rule of law. And Roman rule of law does actually have things in there that are like, they're specific. Like you see it in there's scenes there in the Chosen show where they make them carry, the Romans make them carry luggage. But even that, there's a limit. They're not slaves. So they can't just beat them for no reason. Their jurisdictions, they were born in a jurisdiction that was under Roman law while they were born there. They're Roman citizens according to how Rome works. Because if they just made everybody slaves, they'd be constantly having rebellions. And they're trying to make a nation. Because they are that. And the Romans were a really big nation that existed a really long time. Now they got there by conquering and suppressing. But they did not do certain things. Like they did not necessarily make them conform to their religion unless it was a case of their God's name that they had. They had a God with a name that does the same thing that yours does. So yours goes away and you're going to worship them. But if they don't got a God for what you got, they were going to take it on. Because the Gentiles were a multi-God nation almost everywhere in the world at this point in religious history. Just for some context. So he's been speaking with the Sanhedrin. And they're mad because he's saying Gentiles, without becoming Jews, can get into heaven. And then there's the Sadducees who don't even believe in the afterlife. So he's got them in this uproar again by knowing what room he was in, picking up from yesterday. And he had to be taken away to the barracks. So he's interacting more with the Gentiles than he is with any Jew. And that's pretty typical of what he's been doing as he's been doing his world tour. The following night, the Lord stood near Paul and said, "Take courage. As you have testified about me in Jerusalem, you must also testify in Rome. Like I am sending you. You made this choice to come here to Jerusalem when you were told what would happen to you. You said you're ready. You said you're okay with it. You said, take me to testify to who I can't get to with what I'm doing. Go ahead." And this next parable is called the plot to kill Paul. Because when Creator wants to send you someplace, they tell you in advance what they're doing. It's not really a surprise. And they will provide the way. So, because the Lord will provide with where he wants to send you to. It won't cost you. You won't have to sacrifice anything but your time and your energy when he's sending you someplace that he wants you to be. So it's a key way of knowing the difference. The next morning, the Jews formed a conspiracy, and of course they did, and bound themselves with an oath not to eat or drink until they had killed Paul. So not talking about bringing him up on charges. Just he needs to die. That's what they've decided. There's no other alternative. More than 40 men were involved in this plot. They went to the chief priests and elders and said, "We have taken a solemn oath not to eat or drink anything until we have killed Paul. Now then, you and the Sanhedrin petition the commander to bring him before you on the pretext of wanting more accurate information about his case. We are ready to kill him before he gets here. Now, understand that this attitude, this is the attitude in which Paul, when he was called Saul, was operating out of to go hunt down Christians and kill him. So this is just something that is acceptable to these people. It just shows you a level of corruption that's going on in there. This was something that Jesus talked about the entire time. This is why he was snarky with the people who were in these governing bodies in the first place. Because this is like the equivalent of when you're dealing in Europe much later in history in the king's court, and you just know corruption's there. The corruption's there, and nobody's hiding it, and nobody cares. Everybody's just accepting it, and nobody's doing anything. They're just following along. Because if you follow along, and even though you see that things are wrong and you're not trying to change anything, you're not removing yourself from those people, you are on the highway, not the footpath. Because we're not supposed to tolerate those things. We are supposed to use our voice to speak out against it in the corruption and all the rest of the stuff. We are meant to rebuke. And that was always in there. But they're only doing it when it's for their political gain. Because for some of these people, this is what this is. The Sadducees do not believe in an afterlife. So for them, this is about the law. And this is about what's good for their life. And not necessarily what's good according to what God has decided. They are operating, some of them, at least these 40, under the pretext of it's right in my eyes, and therefore it's right. But it's not our measure. We can't loophole our way into heaven. And everything is supposed to be about getting into heaven. All of it is an exercise of my will to thy will. Yes, heaven. You are changing you and your energy vibration to match the vibration of heaven. You're not changing heaven to be ideal for you. Heaven is not whatever is just ideal for you. That's just not how it is. It's not necessarily what the opinion of everybody else around us is either. Because the real truth of the matter is, we only know what is of heaven based upon what people are even describing for us or philosophizing for us. There's no place in any of these, in any part of the Old Testament I've seen, and any of the rest of it, in which, you're going to, heaven contains the following items. Okay. That's why there's the different religions. All of them have a different idea of what you're supposed to be doing. Jesus' direct commandment to each other was love one another. That's what we're supposed to be doing. That's the commandment. Verse 16. But when the son of Paul's sister heard this plot, he went to the barracks and told Paul. He was like, how did he? Because he would be Sanhedrin. Paul was Sanhedrin. He was Pharisee of the Sanhedrin. His nephew would have been too. Because genetically, he was allowed to be let in. So what he needed to do was have enough money to pay the entrance fee, because he was already eligible for the club based upon his genetics. That kind of sounds a little familiar. Doesn't that sound like what nobility is? Then Paul called to one of his centurions and said, take this young man to the commander. He has something to tell him. So he took him to the commander. Because remember, to these centurions and everything, they're confused. Paul has committed no crime. They have no right to take any physical action against him. As far as they can tell, he needs protecting from these other people who are acting unlawful when they are the keepers of their own culture's laws, that are plotting murder openly, as if it's not a problem. The centurion said, Paul, the prisoner, sent for me and asked me to bring this young man to you because he has something to tell you. Which this part here, this isn't even uncommon in the Roman culture. They said the citizens do this all over the place. When you see something, say something. These are the police. for their era. The commander took this young man by the hand, drew him aside, and asked, "What is it that you want to tell me?" He said, "The Jews have agreed to ask you to bring Paul before the Sanhedrin tomorrow on the pretext of wanting more accurate information about him. Don't give in to them, because more than 40 of them are waiting in ambush for him. They have taken an oath not to eat or drink anything until they have killed him. They are ready now, waiting for your consent to their request." The commander dismissed the young man and cautioned him, "Don't tell anyone that you have reported this to me," just like any police officer would, right? Paul transferred to Caesarea. So now this commander needs to decide what to do. This is getting beyond him, above his head. Verse 23. Then he called 2 of his centurions and ordered them, "Get ready a detachment of 200 soldiers, 70 horsemen, and 200 spearmen. Go to Caesarea at 9 tonight. Provide mounts for Paul, so that he may be taken safely to Governor Felix." He wrote a letter as follows: Claudius Lysias, that would be the governor, "To his excellency, Governor Felix, greetings. This man was seized by the Jews, and they were about to kill him. But I came with my troops and rescued him, for I learned that he is a Roman citizen," which means he has certain protections under the law. Their actions are illegal. "I wanted to know what they were accusing him. So I brought him to their Sanhedrin. I found the accusations had to do with questions about their law, but there was no charge against him that deserved death or imprisonment. So when I was informed of a plot to be carried out against the man, I sent him to you at once. I also ordered his accusers to present to you their case against him." So the soldiers, carrying out their orders, took Paul with them during the night and brought him to Antipatris. Yeah. The next day, they let the cavalry go on with him while they returned to their barracks. When the cavalry arrived in Caesarea, they delivered the letter to the governor and handed Paul over to him. The governor read the letter and asked what province he was from. Learning that he was from Sicilia, he said, "I will hear your case when your accusers get here." And then he ordered Paul to be kept under guard at Herod's palace. So the Holy Spirit, Elohanu, the on high living God, and Jesus Christ of Nazareth, his personal Messiah, right, are using Gentiles and their strict adherence to their law to protect him from murder conspiracies from his own people for speaking things that they actually actively debate about in their own laws when he's a member of their body, because they don't like the words he's saying. They don't want whatever trouble they feel like it brings. They don't want to upset their power structure, because this is what they've come to, which is why Jesus was so snarky for them. And this, again, would be a continuation, because basically all of Paul's story, from the moment he decided to bend the knee, and everything he did after that to prove he was willing to bend the knee to the most complete extent he could, unto giving up his life, is what his vow was. Like, even up to that, all the way through it. If that's what it costs, that's what it costs, because I killed people in the past with my words. So if my words get me killed, it's what I put into motion. And if I must be a martyr, I'll be a martyr. That's how far he was. That's a ride or die. That he took his ride or die vow for the on high. Because really, being a Pharisee, he had already taken a vow of ride or die. Because being a Pharisee was supposed to be, I will dedicate every single microsecond of my life to you. Eloheinu, the on high, the living God. That's what he was supposed to be doing in the first place. That's what every Pharisee is supposed to be doing in the first place. So, this is a giant example of no weapon formed against me shall prosper. And isn't that the truth? He will use every single drop, even though drop isn't the proper form of measurement, of energy he can to save as many people as possible. What he's looking for is people who are willing to slow down, ask questions before they act, and be the best versions of themselves that they can be, with an open heart to anchor the light into the world while giving out love. Now, are you willing to slow down and love one another? That's the real question. I know that I'm going to. I invite all of you to join me as I bend the knee to him as I do every day. Hello, friends, and welcome to Adventures in Pixieland. My name is Amy. We are in Bible study. I'm indeed an ordained minister. We are in the NIV. We are going to be in the NIV through 2025. In this video, we are in Psalms, Book 1. We're going to be doing Psalm 14, and it is verses 1 through 7. So let us jump in. For the director of music, it's a Psalm of David. The fool says in his heart, there is no God. They are corrupt. Their deeds are vile. There is no one who does good. The Lord looks down from heaven on the sons of men to see if there are any who understand, any who seek God. All have turned aside. They have together become corrupt. There is no one who does good, not even one. David's feeling some kind of way here. Will evildoers never learn? Those who devour my people as men who eat bread and do not call on the Lord. There they are, overwhelmed with dread, for God is present in the company of the righteous. You evildoers frustrate the plans of the poor, but the Lord is their refuge. Oh, that salvation for Israel would come out of Zion when the Lord restores the fortunes of his people. Let Jacob rejoice and Israel be glad.